Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our Emergence pre-conference, Artists Adaptability Circles, Centralizing Trust and Mutual Aid. We're happy to have you here. As we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that wherever we're calling in from today, this meeting, including its Zoom servers, is being held on Indigenous peoples' lands. We pay our respects to those who have continuously stewarded the lands for generations and publicly recognize all the Native communities who combat erasure to remain here and active to this day. I'm calling myself from Yelamu, the traditional lands of the Muwekma and Ramatish Ohlone people. Wish to acknowledge my own ancestors who played varied and nuanced roles in the history of this land and honor those who stewarded their own native lands before colonization. And as a land acknowledgement is a orientation, a 101, not even a first step. I am also going to be, as I do every time I do a land acknowledgement, making a donation. This time around, I will make a donation to the American Indian Arts and Culture Center. So I'll get that link and put it in if anybody else wants to do that. But welcome all, and thank you all who've joined us.
Thanks so much, Rhiannon. Hello, everyone. My name is Raina Brown. I serve as one of the co-directors of Emerging Arts Professionals. And before we really jump into the heart of our session, I'd like to invite folks to join me in a grounding just to get ourselves settled in our session together before we begin. So if you'd like to turn your cameras off, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to leave mine on as I guide us through a grounding. As you settle in, I want to invite you to plant your feet flat on the ground, uncross any of your limbs, and let your hands rest on top of your legs. I'd like you to start by taking a deep breath in and exhaling. And as you continue your deep breath, I'd like you to consider the sensations that you feel in your body in this moment. There's no need to change how you feel or how you're showing up today. I just ask that you take a moment to identify those feelings for yourself, starting from the top of your head, moving your way down to your shoulders, scanning down your arms and torso, down to the lower half of your body, taking a scan of each leg, and finally your feet beneath you. As you take another deep breath, I'd like to invite you to really feel the sensation of whatever it is that is holding and supporting your body physically in this moment. For me, that's a chair. So I'm feeling the sensation of the support on my back, the support underneath me, and the support under my feet. As you take another deep breath in, I'd like you to now think about the things that are supporting you emotionally today. The physical support of our body are things that we can touch, things that we can see. But the emotional support that we bring with us into this space very well might be something that you cannot touch, something that you cannot see, at least in this moment. Please take another deep breath in and exhale. As we move through our session today, it's my hope that you move through our conversations thinking about the support that you have today, whether that be physical support or emotional support or spiritual support. But consider the ways that you are supported and the ways that you are able to give to others because of the ways you are poured into. As we direct our conversation now towards a program that aims to offer this same kind of holistic support to artists who have shown up and poured into their communities every single day. Please take another deep breath in and exhale. I'd like to invite folks to just start wiggling your fingers and toes. Get a little sway going in your body before you open your eyes and return to our Zoom screen. If you'd like to do a little stretch, go ahead and reach up to the sky for your ceiling if you're inside like me. And when you're ready, you can come on back to our Zoom screen. Thank you so much for going through a grounding with us.
Thank you for offering that beautiful grounding, Raina. Hey folks, my name is Vin Seaman. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the director of Diamond Wave. We are one of the collaborating organizations leading the Artists Adaptability Circles project, along with EAP, several host organizations, including MACLA, La Peña, and SOMArts, as well as many other funding organizations as well. I'd love to take time for everybody to speak their voice and to introduce themselves into the space, but unfortunately, we won't have time for that today. So I'm hoping that people are able to share in the chat. Some information to introduce yourself, including your name, your pronouns, any affiliations that you want to bring into the room with you, as well as where you're calling from or on what native land you are based in. And if you don't know this information, feel free to visit native-land.ca, and you can search via your address or your zip code. Also, just a couple of housekeeping notes. I want to note that if you need to get up and stretch or get some water or use the restroom, please feel free to listen to those instincts and take care of yourself as needed. We'll have several moments of transition to take kind of informal breaks, but take the space that you need throughout today. Also, if you need any help with anything, if you need any help with anything of navigating different breakout rooms, renaming something, feel free to ping myself, Rhiannon, or Raina in the chat. We all have the star and AAC at the start of our names, so we're right up at the top of there, and we can help you out or get you sorted. I want to start the conversation today by kind of talking about how the Artists Adaptability Circles program got started, and give us a little bit of background to lead us into more discussion. And so that's to really say that this entire initiative is really rooted in relationships and trust between different funders, consultants, arts leaders, and artists and community. In the summer of 2020, Francis Phillips, who is a former head of the Creative Work Fund at the Walter and Elise Haas Foundation, and Islama Archie Doof, who is the program officer for arts and culture at the San Francisco Foundation, reached out to me saying, hey, we want to do something else that's going to reach folks that are slipping between the cracks during COVID. We know that there's people aren't getting all of their needs met. And what that led to was us saying, well, I don't know if I know what everybody needs to get their needs met. And so we started gathering partners and bringing folks on to have conversations about what it is that we need. And I think in the process, really realized that a lot of what we needed as arts leaders was this circle of trust in this space for us to come together and meet regularly with people to talk about what our various needs were in community and to just have support in moving these things along. And so with the guidance of Rhiannon Evans McFadgen from Emerging Arts Professionals, we really grounded this program in the idea of mutual aid and creating circles within circles. So that's just briefly to say that the way that the program works is that we will work with, currently we're working with 3 different host organizations. Again, that's MACLA, Movimiento de Arte Cultura de Latino Americana, that's based in San Jose, La Peña Cultural Center, that's based in Berkeley, and SOMArts Cultural Center, South of Market Cultural Center, that's based in San Francisco. I'm just remembering to slow myself down a little bit to help with our live captioner here as well. So with this cohort of different organizations leading this effort, we reached out to artists in our community and asked them, what issues are you working on and who are you working with to do these towards these issues? And what we came up with are 6 really beautiful circles. We're currently in our 2nd round of artists that are working together towards a common issue. And we'll hear from them in just a little bit. But before we do that, I want to let you know, if you want more information about the history or some more perspectives of this program, we recorded a session for the National Performance Network, and you're able to view that. It gives a little bit more depth and breadth of what this program is, how it got started, and where it's at now. But to continue on, I would love to introduce some of the lead artists that we're currently working with, to give us a very high level synopsis of what their circle is doing. So let's go ahead and let's start with Alma and Trisha. Would y'all love to start and just tell us about the work that y'all are doing?
Sure. Thanks, Vin. I can start and then I'll pass it to Trisha. Hi, everyone. Alma, they, them pronouns are good for me. And working with Trisha in this effort towards addressing the gap in resources and representation for queer and trans folks of color, specifically artists, to provide more resources and uplift those artists' work. So we started this effort through Queer Rain back in February 2021. And through the support of the Artists Adaptability Circles, we were able to publish our first magazine showcasing work by these artists, creating this anthology of work. We then went on to print and publish a second anthology, and we've been able to do several different pop-ups here around the Bay Area, as well as in New York City, to have these kinds of celebrations. And so it's been a real joy to get to do that work, to work in this community. Yeah, I think I'll maybe pause there and pass it to Trisha.
Halito Sahoji Foyat, Trisha Rainwater, part of Queer Rain. It's been a long time since Alma and I have put out any work for Queer Rain, like solid work. So I thought I would show off our beautiful magazine that was just so much work and so beautiful. It came out last year, this time at Pride, and I sadly had COVID for our launch party, and so I couldn't really be there to celebrate. So it felt like a nice thing to call in for this. Through this magazine and its efforts, we were able to pay artists to have their work in it and then have it up in different places in San Francisco for sale. Through that, really getting artists more access and visibility, which is the whole point here. And that's a little bit about me and what we're doing.
Thank you so much, Alma and Trisha. It's great hearing about your circle. Let's go to Tassi next. Tassi, would you care to just share a little bit about your circle and what y'all have been up to?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Tassi. I'm on Ramatisha Lonely Land, San Francisco. Our group, Red Clay Sound House, is amplifying the sound of Black San Francisco. SF currently has less than 3% Black population, and we have gathered 5 sound designers, specifically sound designers who explore sound, noise, voice, architecture, land. We're working with 4 derivatives: land, love, labor, and legacy. And through this fund, we were able to begin to activate an actual site, which was once lived in and owned by a Black family in San Francisco. And we got to begin to collect Black sound of the architecture itself and began to work on an sound immersive experience.
Thank you so much for sharing that beautiful work, Tassi. I'd love to next introduce another lead artist, Chris Evans. Chris, if you want to tell us a little bit about what your circle has been up to.
Thanks, Finn. Chris Evans, I'm calling from Chochenyo Ohlone land in Oakland. And our circle was, or is, the Black Women's Self-Care Reparations Project. We were in the first round of funding that AAC did, and we have been really focusing on the question of self-care and what that means for Black women. We have done several retreats at this point and have been moving towards how we can live sustained, thriving lives. And that is increasingly complex in the Bay Area and with the histories and legacies that we are all navigating.
Thank you so much, Chris. I'd love to introduce our next artist, Crystal Azul or Extel Azul. Crystal, if you want to tell us a little bit about what your circle has been doing.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I wanted to gather Two-Spirit and Indigenous queer artists and cultural workers in the Bay Area, the Ohlone lands. And so we have members from Bates org here, Bay Area American Indian Two-Spirit org, cultural workers, artists from Tonga lands. And our purpose was to build our understanding of what our community of Indigenous, queer, trans, and Two-Spirit people need here in the Bay Area. Ultimately, my dream is to acquire funding to lease a brick and mortar space, because one resource we truly need is physical space, land back, and places for us to gather and build community. We were also inspired by Chris's project. So our circle chose to utilize this expansive and emergent space as a time to plant seeds with one another and to build and deepen our connections with each other and our various creative and cultural practices. And after realizing that this program with AAC offered us the generous gift of time and space to thought partner and rest and heal with each other, we felt called to connect with Chico Garza's Two-Spirit Land Project, Wild Places in Yokut Lands, to participate in Temazcal ceremony and to invite 3 guest artists and plant healers to facilitate workshops for our Círculo. And because we are often the facilitators and don't get a chance to be the participants, so that we may be able to take the opportunity to learn and grow together in a healing space in order to be even greater supports for our communities.
Thank you so much for sharing, Crystal, about all of that. And then lastly, I'd love to introduce our last lead artist, Elizabeth Jimenez Montalengo.
Hi, everybody. I'm Elizabeth Jimenez Montalengo, and our circle was rooted in the work of La Raíz magazine, which is an organization that is focused on expanding opportunities for the creation of new works of art and poetry, as well as the opportunity to present publicly these works of art and poetry and publishing. I'll show the publications really quick. Right, so we publish these glossy full color issues, and in our circle, we focus on expanding that work. Our participants and contributors it's all like inclusive. We focus on making sure to represent women and also people with Indigenous roots, people from Mexico, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. And it's a like bilingual and multilingual space. And our circle's work focused on, so we had 3 things. One was on a Gente Chica issue, which is now available digitally online and will soon be in print. And then we had zine workshops at Medicine for Nightmares in San Francisco for people to learn about like zine making and history of it and process. And then there is a podcast coming soon where people, particularly women eventually, but our circle will like share our stories. Our stories are like about ourselves and our work in AAC and just, experiences. And our work also focused on sharing with each other, like our experiences, challenges, and ways we overcame that so that we could learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Elizabeth. I also want to bring in one of our lead artists who is not able to be with us today, Hector Lugo, who's creating safe, open, accessible physical and social spaces for Afro-Latin music and dance community jams in collaboration with Bilingual Education Public School in Oakland. Last year, in the first year of their circle, Hector created an artist residency where musicians from the community were coming into Manzanita Seed Elementary School to host music lessons and teach kids about music, and then also creating public events so that the youth were able to bring their families and come out and see these musicians in community and doing these activities that they also got to learn. So Hector is not able to join us today, but just also wanted to speak to that. One thing that you might be noticing about these projects, we're trying to get rid of the word projects because there's not a project that's required here. This is really about the work of these individual artists. And so you'll see that some of them have chosen to have a publication or events or other activities that come out of it. Others have chosen to really focus on working within their group. So time for healing, resting, conversation, coordination, research and development. So that's something I think is really creative and unique about this program, is relinquishing that need for a public event to happen, understanding that the artists that we're working with do so much in community. So trusting that, of course, there will be events and activities that happen within community, but really focused on the artists themselves and their relationships in these circles. Rhiannon or Raina, I just wanted to create space in case either of you had anything else that you wanted to add there to that introduction.
Hi, I realized I did not introduce myself. I'm Rhiannon Evans McFadden from Emerging Arts Professionals. I never do this, co-director with Raina. I think the thing that I would really like to share about this work, a couple of things. One is we're modeling today's panel conversation discussion on our sessions. We all got to meet as a cohort, which was about 25, something like that, folks, this time around, to get to know each other first. And I think that's also a unique aspect of this particular program, is that it's not just about, okay, here, come in, here's some money, now make a thing, and then give us a report with all the nice metrics that make us feel good as funders. The main thing is about fostering the work that the artists are already doing and meeting artists in a way that artists need to be met. So we get together, we meet with the leads who all are stewarding smaller circles, and then we meet as a large group. And some of the stuff, of course, has changed. We're not going to be learning any particular tools today like we would be doing, like network mapping or peer coaching or all of those sort of tools. And our groundings are usually a little bit more artistic based, but also our introductions are a little bit more, personal than this. So other than that, I think we are really trying to make this space here be similar, and that we're just going to be here talking to each other. The other thing to note is, personally, as somebody who's been an artist and a nonprofit worker for a really long time, this process is very iterative, and we try to listen to the artists as much as possible. And in our beta round, we made a lot of adjustments related to feedback that we got around how to do this work, including it was 6 months, now it's 2 years, so that we have time to get to know each other. And the upside is there's more time. The other upside that's more complicated is now I'm like deeply invested in every single one of these folks that's here. So I might start to get a little bit emotional because it's been a little while since I've gotten to see everybody. So it's just nice to hear about the work that they're all doing now that everybody's off on their own, but wanted to just really focus on grounding this conversation on the things that we think are really important about AAC. One is meeting artists where they are. We're not asking anyone to perform for us. We're not asking for anybody to produce for us. But the idea is you as artists are out there and doing this work with a group of people you regularly do this work with. And here's some money and time and support to continue doing that. just share back with us so that we can share with the community. The other is focusing on mutual aid. So the artists that are meeting with each other, while they're talking about whatever it is that they want to do, they're also talking about how they're going to support each other. We spend a lot of time talking about sort of institutional support, and we spend a lot of time as artists pushing out into the world. And we really wanted to allow and maybe even extra encourage artists to spend some time thinking about how they can support each other and themselves as they do this very heart-centered work. And then the last thing is the trust that we trust this process. We have a lot of open conversations. The advisory circle, all the funders, the host organizations, the lead artists, and Diamond Wave and EAP meet regularly to talk about which direction we need to go. How do we need to make shifts? How do we need to support one person differently maybe than the other? And then how do we need to shift the whole program to make it even better? And that process is really important. We are very, very process-centered. And again, reiterating that idea that we don't ask anybody to produce anything. If you happen to produce something by the end, that's wonderful. And if you don't, that's wonderful. So just wanted to share those sort of things also as we sort of go into talking about those particular aspects more.
Thank you for adding that, adding that additional context, Rhiannon. I really appreciate that. Do we want to start introducing our breakout conversations that we're going to be having today as well?
Sounds good. Again, we're not going to have any big breaks, but that was a lot of talking at everybody. So let's just take a moment to stretch, shake out. I find that when I'm doing these meetings, I hear the voice getting lower and I get more serious. And so I want to just spend a moment to remove the serious, breathe, take a deep breath, rub your eyes. Remember that we are stuck on Zoom because we're all over the place, but that doesn't mean that we have to be stuck. And then we're going to get into some conversations. So again, those sort of three big tenets that we have with EAP. I'm getting ready for Emergence, and I just keep saying EAP about 27 times a day. AAC rhymes with EAP and Diamond Wavy. So the three sort of big things that we often talk about when we're talking about the uniqueness of this program and why it feels so powerful. And honestly, as an arts and culture worker, it feels like it feeds me so much more than just like our usual, like, here's a re-grant. One is that the funders, the host organizations, the lead artists, that we're all collaborative, and that collaboration starts really, really early. And in fact, the whole program started really, really early, with funders being part of even deciding what this program was going to be. So that's like a huge part of our conversations. The other thing that is really important is centering process over product, and recognizing that we have to spend a lot more time trusting that process. I think that comes up a lot in our conversations with both artists and organizations. Somebody will have been doing maybe like community projects for like 20 years, but because they don't necessarily have a hard timeline or all the right language, there's this question sometimes in panels, can we really trust that they're going to do that? We are trusting that if you've already been doing it, you can do it, and it's going to look like whatever you think it's going to look like as an artist, not what we think it's going to look like as organizations. The other side of that, the other last thing is multiplicity. Again, that idea of it's going to look like you, whatever it's going to look like to you. We focus really heavily on being flexible and doing things in different ways to allow for anybody's way of communicating with the funders, doing process together. Some examples being like, maybe you look at a spreadsheet and a budget and it just like gets you stuck, and we'll just take some time to get some Post-it notes, talk it through, organize it, and then we'll help write proposals or whatever it is that you need. For the application process, you can write the application, or you can send in audio, or you can send in video. We try to do a lot of different things like that. We have a lot of open office hours, so folks can just come in and we'll write things with people. We really don't want the sort of bureaucratic process to get in the way, and we want to find a lot of different ways to meet. We also have, it's been I think a big challenge for us has been recognizing that what is important to a group of artists and to a community doesn't always look like what we're used to looking like. In some cases, we had one artist circle that said that they wanted to just rest. And we were like, yeah, but what are you going to do? And they even came back to us and was like, you said that you were going to let us do what we needed to do. That's what we needed to do. And we were like, yep, you are right about that. Thank you. And really came up with some ways of adjusting and finding some balance so that we could do what we needed to do for reporting, but also not try to make people jump through hoops. So those three aspects are kind of things that we wanted to talk about. We recognize right now we are in a group of mixed company, people who are very, very rarely in the same room together to have a conversation. We have funders, we have nonprofit directors, we have artists, we have community workers and organizers. And right now we are not going to have separate conversations. We're not going to put you all in separate groups. Everyone is going to be in groups that are mixed up between all of those things to talk about those three tenets. So each group is going to have a different question. I think we have 3 questions in 5 groups, but something like that. Groups are going to have a few different questions. Group 1, and as Vin does all the magic in the background, putting everybody in their groups, I will read out these questions, but we'll also put the prompts in the chat. Group 1 is going to talk about the question, what are your needs when finding balance between funders being hands-off and allowing the artist freedom and autonomy versus being actively involved in guiding and supporting the development of work? This is, again, this talking about like allowing for products to have the freedom to shift and change. Also, how many times do you meet with an artist? How many times, like, can an artist reach out to a funder and ask questions? Group 2 and 3 are going to talk about the question, how can the AAC model of centering process over product be transformative in your work and or life? What hurdles or challenges might you see in implementing this model on a wider scale? And you can meet this question as an individual worker or as your organization or as an artist. Again, we also really encourage folks, we come again with all these hats. I've been talking about people like, no hats, take all the hats off. You are here as a person with all of these different experiences. And then group 4 and 5 is going to talk about how can or do funders provide a multiplicity of ways in connecting and interacting with artists? How can our artists from many backgrounds heard, funded, and supported? Again, thinking about this, like, are your application, have you been able to apply for something in various ways, a conversation, a video? As a funder, have you found different ways to make it easy for reporting? It can be dry, it can be loose, however, wherever you're coming from today, but really having one conversation. As we get into groups, also want to encourage, when you first get into your group, introduce yourselves. We would normally go in a big circle and every single person in our circle would introduce themselves with some kind of grounding question. We're going to have all these are grounding questions, so you don't have to do that, but just introduce yourself to the circle so you can have a good conversation and get to know each other, which is number one, the most important thing that you can walk away with today. And then I'm going to ask everybody, every circle, to pick 1 or 2 note takers, and we're going to use a little Jamboard just to take some notes, some quotes, things like that, so we can capture your thoughts around those questions. And with that, let's share that Jamboard link.
I just added it into the chat there.
Beautiful.
Great.
And so before we go into groups, are there any questions about this process? Breakout groups, introductions, pick a note taker, just have a conversation. All right.
Okay, great. I'll go ahead and open the breakout rooms for all of our AAC. Oh, go ahead, Salama.
My heart is just so full. I don't even know where to start. But I just wanted to make sure there was some time for questions. I know there was an agenda pulled up earlier, but there's going to be time for us to do a Q&A at some point at the end, right? Because I know some folks, I appreciate all those who I invited. Thank you so much for coming. And I want to make sure your questions get answered also while you're here.
Yeah, we have about 15 minutes at the end. If folks feel like they need more than that, I can also hang around for, folks can hang around here for any additional questions. So maybe we'll focus the question section on if you have broader questions that everybody might want an answer to, we'll do those ones first. And then if folks have really specific questions, maybe hang back for the last, for a couple of minutes afterwards. Does that work?
Appreciate you.
I'll also try to, if you put questions in the chat, I'll try to answer those as they come up as well. Like Allison's question there about funding decisions. So I'll go ahead and open the rooms. For all of our AAC folks, I pre-assigned you to rooms. Otherwise, feel free to pick between the 5 different topics. These breakout rooms will be about 25 minutes, I believe. And then we'll be coming back at about 1:15, or 1:10. Yes, okay. I'll go ahead and open the rooms up.
Oh, the pain of being pulled out of a I feel like Zoom should change it to a 2-minute warning. I feel like 60 seconds isn't quite enough. Welcome back.
How were all those conversations for folks? I'm hoping they were really rich and delightful. I know that I got to participate in one. It was really fantastic.
If anybody has to quick shout out the last 3 words of your sentence, quick.
Bates needs funding.
Yes, thank you.
I think we're all back in, right?
Yes, we are all back. I know there was definitely a request for time for Q&A. So I wonder if we want to take a moment to take any questions from folks before we move into our closing. Vin and Rhiannon, thoughts?
Yeah,
I love that
works.
idea.
You want to, prep whatever the thing is you need to prep, but let's just chat. I also want to encourage, if anybody has anything specific that kind of came up that you want the whole group to hear, please feel free to share. And then also, if there are questions from folks, this is a good moment for it. Chris.
Rhiannon, could I jump in? We had a great discussion in our group, and I wish we could have just gone on and on. But I think one of the things that was coming to me from the discussions is that art is, we separate art. Isalama was mentioning this, that when we look back into traditional societies, art is just integrated into everything. It is how what you do, it is how you celebrate, it is how you heal, it is how you adjudicate, it's all of these things. And I think what AAC is allowing is a little bit of a return to that understanding of art. Our particular group, the Black Women Self-Care group, we're not focusing on our work as artists even, we're focusing on our life as art. Like, how do we live thriving lives that are expressing our passions, which many are creative and healing, but also balanced and sustaining for ourselves. So I feel like something has come together for me in understanding the importance of AAC with our group discussion. So thank you all.
Yeah, I think we should definitely have a future conversation about what is art and who is an artist. There's a whole line of books that are called on phenomenology and embodiment, and this whole theoretical idea of embodiment. And I think when we think about how we behave and how we live our lives day to day as creatives, that can help us revision and reimagine what an artist is, right? And how we participate in society as creatives.
Islam, I feel like that's a conversation that we were having in our group as well, is, you know, how do we self-define versus what are the labels that are put on us? And then I think specifically as well, I was talking, I believe the first year of this program, we offered it as like, we're looking for artists. And then a way that in the second evolution of it, it was artists, arts workers, and culture bearers, that we wanted to extend that out, understanding that some people saw that word artist as a barrier to apply because they didn't necessarily fit with that terminology.
Yeah, and I would add to that, like, that's also why we do a nomination process. I think that we didn't really speak to that much, but this program, we nominate folks, and then folks nominate folks, and then folks nominate folks. Again, removing all of those assumptions. This is one of EAP's framework, equity frameworks, is removing assumptions. We can have a conversation one-on-one and say, don't worry about it. You count. You're in. It doesn't matter what you call it, you qualify. And that also, I think, helps to create. I think if we had just put out an open call, I'm not sure everybody who's in this cohort would have applied. But that we say, invite people in that we have connection to, and then let them invite. It always becomes this thing like, well, what if you're missing people? But I actually think we're also missing people by not allowing for one-on-one conversations. And so I think that trust and allows for more multiplicity, and really just like, let's just have a chat. Yes, you count. Raina, do we have any other questions from non-AAC folks, or we can also hold some questions and start this and allow for them to naturally come up? Raina, do you want to?
Yeah, let's do that. So for our closing reflection, I put a prompt into the chat because there are too many questions to put on our board. I'm going to be sharing my screen now to invite you to participate in this poll everywhere. If this is your first time using Poll Everywhere, it's a really convenient tool to allow a multitude of folks to chime in anonymously. So all of your responses to the questions in the chat will be anonymously shown on our screen. There's two ways that you can connect to this server. You can either open a window on your browser and go to pollev.com/RainaBrown999. That's at the top of the screen here. Or you can take out your phone and you can text Raina Brown 999 to the number 22333. That's going to bring you into our Poll Everywhere window. So we'd love to hear from you all, just closing reflections from our time together. For funders, what is one bureaucratic thing, just one, that you can simplify to really expedite the process for community funding? For artists, what is one thing in the funding process that could be changed to bring you freedom or agency in your work? Now, I'm sure there's more than one answer for both of these questions, but we're just asking you to share one for us in closing. Alternatively, if you'd like to answer a third question, we'd love to just hear like something you're taking away, a thought that is sticking with you, something that someone said that is still ringing in your mind. Thanks for putting that link into the chat. Funders could eliminate written reports and just have conversations with grantee partners. Love it. Reporting, live interview reports, please. Yes, we want more live human-to-human interaction. I totally agree. Decouple the performative aspects of applications and reports. Yeah, lots of conversations about performance and what role performance has, not only in the product of grants, but also on the side of who is offering the funding and the questions that funders are asking of artists. Thanks so much for these reflections, folks. We have a takeaway here. Potential for funders and artists to be in relationship and community versus focused on the money transaction. Yeah, absolutely. A conversation that I heard today was the elephant in the room of having a conversation with folks who have a very different relationship to money than you do, and not being able to have a candid conversation about that. Thanks for that takeaway. I see, can grant applications be conversations too? Ooh, okay, conversation application. The next thing I see here is funding processes over products. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Change who sits on the decision-making side of the table. Absolutely. Who's sitting at the table makes a complete and powerful change in who is receiving funding and who is not. Taking away the power of relationship-based nominations for widening the circle of artists, creatives, and culture bearers. Funders can make application and reporting process brief, short conversations focused on relationship and health and wellness of people, not the products. Do we even have to have sides of the table? Do we even need a table? Can it be a pool? Stop scoring excellence. Pay artists and community workers the same or more than foundation employees. Ooh, artist pay, talk about it. Provide sustained funding over longer periods, 5 years, to enable transformation. Absolutely. These are some powerful reflections, y'all. Thank you so much. I'm sure you, if you are thinking like I am, are eager to read the notes on our Jamboard from other groups. So we'll make sure to include that Jamboard link in our email to all of you after our session. Here's another reflection. Valuing formation, centering the artist, not the product. Absolutely. And with that, I'm gonna end our session reflection. Thank you so much for taking that time to anonymously share your feedback and thoughts after our time together today. It's been really beautiful to not only hear the conversations in the group I was able to be a part of, but also to see the takeaways from the larger group here. Thanks so much. With that, I'm going to pass it to Rhiannon for a brief message before we close.
Hi, yes, that's right. Plug. So if you really like this conversation and you want to continue it, we are going to have Isalama, Margot, Vin, and myself, and Raina are all going to be in conversation specifically around this trust-based funding and the process-based funding at Emergence, which is June 5th through now 7th. It was 5, 6, 7. Now it's 5, 6, 7, 8. We have a little closing event on Thursday. So I just want to encourage everybody to sign up. Emergence is our annual convening of the arts and culture workers. We have some alum in this room. That's so great to see. Emergence is also the commencement of our cohorts. And so this will be the commencement of cohort 12, I think we're on right now. And so please sign up. We have ticket tiers for everyone. There's a sliding scale. There's a BIPOC discount. There's for folks who have extra dough hanging around. There's a support us range, but really anywhere from like $1 up. So we really just want people in the rooms having the conversation. We've got the link in the chat here, and our conversation with the AAC folks, the sort of continued conversation will be on Tuesday, in the afternoon session, which I believe is 1:30 to 3. Did I get that right? Oh, it's in the chat. I could have just cheated and looked. Thank you. And with that, I want to take the last couple of minutes, to encourage you all. We're going to put our email addresses in the chat so that you can follow up if you have any questions about AAC or you want to get connected to folks that you had conversations with. And we want to just do like a little moment of putting some hands to edges since we're stuck here in our little boxes. So I just want to encourage everyone to like wave to your people, to put your hands up and touch the edges of your boxes. I'm touching Raina's hand right now. Everyone's in different spaces for each other, so it's so funny to do this. Now maybe say hi to who's below you. If you have anybody above you, say hi. Do a little wave. And just thank you all for being part of this conversation. Vin, did you have any closing words you wanted to add to this group?
No, I think it was such a beautiful space to be in community today. And so just want to thank each and every one of you for joining. It was really beautiful to have a really rich dialogue in our breakout rooms and really excited to just keep the conversation moving forward. And as Rhiannon said, if anyone has any questions for us, we put our emails in the chat there, and then we'll let you know that we're going to follow up with the Jamboard, some of those reflections. We'll send you all of our emails, a link to all of our artist circles so you can find out more about the great work that they're doing in community. And then also last year or earlier this year, Rhiannon and Chris, Crystal and Tara from Peña did a beautiful panel for the National Performance Network that we did a video for. So I'll send you that has just a little bit more history and background on the program, as well as just some perspectives from organizations and artists participating in Artists Adaptability Circles.
Great. And then there's folks putting if you have any other events coming up, please put that in there. Also want to plug Tassi, who is in this group, is going to be doing a in-person workshop. What a concept. With us as our other pre-conference on Saturday. Tassi, do you want to share a sentence as we close about this one?
Come join us on Saturday to build a vocal sanctuary together, where we'll go on a vocal odyssey with one another. And we'll be rattling at the bone level.
That was succinct. Again, we're all available if you want to ask very specific questions too about how this process works. The advisor circle includes Diamond Wave folks, EAP folks, our 3 host organizations, our funders, not all of our funders, but the funders who are like in this with us. And we're all available to talk about our personal experience and how you can either become part of this process or just use some of these models in your own spaces, as well as artists. Don't forget, we're still here. I know you are all in the process of meeting more independently from us now, and we miss you. So call us, invite us. Thank you all so much for coming.
Our open hours are next week too, for you all.
Good for me to remember. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you so much, Vin. Thank you, Rhiannon.
Absolutely. Thank you all. I'm going to play some music to just exit us out here.